And we're live.
Guten Tag, guten Abend aus Deutschland.
Oh, nice.
Wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now, ladies and gentlemen, just know that you are locked in onto the point with
Skip.
and the king. Skip, why couldn't you say that in German? You guys know what to do. Go find us, Apple, Amazon, Spotify. While you're doing whatever, taking care of your kids, doing laundry, it doesn't matter. You can listen to us there. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching us and enjoying our fantastic guests, especially a special guest today, the one and only Mr. Sean McCaw.
Oh, I don't have my
Go by
copy.
that
Damn, I
book.
was gonna hold it up.
Well, hold it up, Skip. Hold it up. Hold it up. Hold it up while I'm spewing garbage. Um, go. But thank you, Sean, for coming on. I know it's late for you out there in Europe. And we very much appreciate you spending your time with us. And we hope you, ladies and gentlemen out there, and our faithful viewers enjoy spending time with Sean. Sean has been a former player, current coach, and a published author. Great man, great personality, great human being. How are
I'm
you doing?
blushing.
Huh?
I'm blushing.
How are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing fine, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm a friend of the pod, so anytime you guys call and you ask me to come on, I'm gonna be here for you guys.
Awesome. We appreciate it.
You're always welcome in our home. You're always welcome in our home. Whether it's here or time zones away, you're more than welcome. Skip, what's up?
Not too much. Just getting ready to talk some basketball. Let's do this.
Okay, let's go. We have seen this is why Sean is here, because he is the expert on this one. And he will give us and you, ladies and gentlemen, some insight into this. We've seen recently certain players like you got that John Morant thing going on, like right? You had Dylan Brooke shoving cameraman. You've had, but even prior to that, you've had Russell Westbrook and LeBron James getting fans kicked out of the game because when fans come to the game, they're gonna be like, "You suck!" Like, look at that Kobe commercial, one of the best, right? But they're getting them kicked out. Maybe they're hurt in their feelings. Maybe like Drake, they're all up in their feelings. We see a lot of players on the court whining and crying after basically every shot. Now, Sean, you are the expert on this one. Since we have like there might be something there that some players have possibly an ego, right? And getting paid a lot of money
Yes.
that it gets within their feelings. Now, how does that affect them on and off the court, possibly their performance on the court, and possibly the stupidity that they post on Instagram off the court? Also, we've seen Kevin Durant with burner accounts. But
Right.
but you, as a former player, can you please give us some insight and educate us on what it's like for them?
Well, of course, every player is different. So for every incident like a John Morant, there's countless basketball players that don't fall into the trap. Of course, it is usually those who are making a lot of money, right? That tend to stand out because those are the ones you hear about the most. But it's a difficult balance because a lot of these players didn't grow up with money. They were not blue bloods. They didn't have a lot of money as they grew older. And now all of a sudden you go through college, you're the man in college, you go through now the pros, your first couple of years, and then all of a sudden you're rewarded for your hard work that you did the whole time with a really huge amount of money. It's every individual how they react to that. But there are quite a few athletes that then go overboard because they've got a lot of time, they've got a lot of money that they didn't have before, and yeah, unfortunately, it tends to be a lot the ones that have quite a bit of money, and everyone falls into the traps. There's trappings of money, there's trappings of of women. There's trappings of just exposure with social media. You're closer to the fans than ever before. You said it yourself. You know, the fans are booing, and these players are getting in their feelings and getting fans kicked out. You never know what's said in those moments between the interaction between a fan and a player. But obviously, if they're getting someone kicked out, usually it's something not very good. But I think fans
Except
are
for that
also
one time
entitled.
Westbrook got someone kicked out for calling him the N-word. That I won't stand.
That's something else. But there are instances where players get fans kicked out just because they're booing, they're against them. And I think fans pay for that interaction. They pay for to be able to go have a few beers and really like let loose, that's also paying the players' salaries, and the players have to be a little bit more thicker skinned, I think.
For the most part. I think I want to jump back to kind of the Ja Morant thing. So just, you mentioned Ja Morant, you mentioned Dylan Brooks. What do you think of the whole Memphis Grizzlies situation in general, right? Because this is a young team that's been on the rise. Like last year, they were the hottest new thing on the block. They were coming up. Now this year, suddenly it's all trash talk. It's all, we're going to take the Warriors down. You see Dylan Brooks, like he's trying to be Draymond Green. Wow. I don't know if you think. There's another question. Like, do you think the Dylan Brooks thing, is that kayfabe? Like, is that fake, or is he actually like this guy? But also, just in general, I'm just going to finish my question. I'll let you get to that. But just in general, what do you make of the Grizzlies as a unit? Like, do you think this is natural growing pains for a young team, or is this a team that's sort of driving itself off the rails?
It's a little bit of both. They are, last year with the success that they had, they put themselves on the map, but they also created a big target for themselves. And I think it is a natural progression for a young team to be brash like they are. And it depends on your leader as well. And if your leader tends to be brash, then it filters down through everyone. And so they've got a huge target on their back, and they've kind of accepted that bad role, that bad boy kind of role. But at the same time, they also have to produce. They haven't proven anything yet. They still haven't proven anything. And I think a lot of the older players, they've taken exception to that because of the fact that they haven't paid their dues in that sense. They haven't done anything yet. And then in retrospect to Dylan, like you said it yourself, like he's kind of going into Draymond Green mode. He's trying to also carve a niche for himself on that team. And if that is the I'm going to protect Ja, I am going to be the bad boy, I'm going to be the lightning rod for the team, then he's doing it. A lot of teams, think back to Rodman when he was with the Pistons, or even Rodman when he was with the Bulls. Teams need that kind of type guy. Draymond, they need that, And if he's willing to step into those shoes, he also has to accept that there's going to be backlash. And if he cares or not, that's his thing. But I think for every Ja, you need that Dylan.
Yeah.
Do you think that with all the like you just mentioned, with the backlash coming back at him, do you think there has to be a definite line that maybe the league itself should define for players? Like, I don't know. I've never been in the locker room like you, so maybe you can educate us. But like, especially after that Iverson rule years ago, do you think there should be a line where the league should step in and handle things differently from the way the players are reacting to the fan, the media, everything like that? And you as a former player, how would you deal with that?
Well, I think as far as how another player would deal with it, they handle things in the locker room. Things get dealt with in the locker room. And what goes on in there won't or shouldn't get leaked out into the public, right? As far as the NBA is concerned, Adam Silver definitely knows what his business is worth, and he will not let anything come between to tarnish the reputation that the NBA has globally. They, for sure, have a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we'll never know. I don't think Ja going into rehab for the whatever 3 or 4 days that he was there, I don't think that was his idea. I think that was definitely coming from the league side. Does anybody really believe that he's going to change overnight? No. But he'll do the right thing. He'll say the right thing. They'll allow him to play. And ultimately, as long as he plays well, things will die down. That's just the way it is in the league.
PR. Skip, do you have another question for Sean? Because I have another one that I think would be a major one for us.
I just think, like, we talk about, this is kind of always an issue, right? These issues kind of always come up throughout history. I mean, we talk about John Morant. I mean, I think it's not a good thing that what he did was not cool, but I think it's maybe a little bit overblown, because you talk about a guy like maybe doing some silly stuff at the strip club, like whatever. People, in my mind, to some extent, that's free time. You should be allowed to do some stuff in your free time. I think you think back to like 10, 15 years ago, you got guys bringing guns in the locker room. Like, that's a whole different thing. That's something that I don't think that should ever fly. But I do think maybe we've almost, you talk about like cracking down on these guys. The David Stern League was really hard about cracking down on guys because there was a lot of stuff going on. I think maybe like what we could be seeing now is almost an overcorrection, where it's like, oh, you're in public, so you can't do this. Whereas, like, in my mind, there might be a difference between, like, yeah, if you're out at the club and someone catches you on TMZ, like, whatever. To my mind, almost whatever. Like, there are certain exceptions where it's too far, but like what you do on your free time maybe should be on your free time, and what you do in the locker room, maybe that's when you really need to be loyal to the team. I don't know exactly what my question is here, but do you think maybe there's been a shift over the years? Do you think maybe things are better or worse than they used to be based on covering the league or being around players?
I think I think really with the rise of social media, the gray area between your private life and your public life is as small as it's ever been. 15, 20 years ago, him brandishing a weapon in a club would not have made the news. It would not have been an issue because nobody would have been filming him, first of all, and second of all, it was a different time. Now everybody wants to get, that's clickbait for everyone right now. So I think that there's a fine line between your public persona and your private persona, and we're just getting to see more of the private persona of a lot of these athletes in every sport. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is another question, but I think the league has done a good job. I think this was blown out a little bit too much with Ja, but you've got sponsors. You've got these guys are idols. They are role models. I get it. Back in the day, Charles Barkley threw a guy through the glass. Nobody filmed it. You heard about it, but it was like on Jock Shock TV, radio, and that was about it. But nowadays it's multiple. It's very multiplied, the coverage, and with that, players have to also understand that they're under a microscope.
Well, it's also like Skip and myself. We speak about this since we've been doing this podcast. We've been trying to keep very clean online because, like you just said, the social media has brought this part to your life right together in a small space.
Well, just look at Myers Leonard. Like, I'm not defending what he did, but that's like one thing he said during a video game, like a stupid thing he said. That basically got him out of the league for a year. People say that stuff on video games all the time, and it's like, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying, like, that's like a one slip of the tongue can cost you, your chance at the league.
Yes. That's what I've been saying. But also at the same time, you said clickbait. By the way, guys, clickbait, you clicked on that thumbnail. So there's something that we would like to ask you, especially concerning this topic. Maybe not in the negative part, but we have seen with the Toronto Raptors players themselves, they have not been performing as well as we've expected them to, but we've also seen some of the players like OG and Fred doing Gillette commercials. We've seen Scotty doing Subway commercials. Maybe you don't get that out there in Germany, but Google Pixel 6, like Siakam doing sandwich commercials, and it looks like they're all in it for the money. This is going to be a Raptor-centric question. It looks like they're all in it for their money, but they have not really been producing on the floor. Do you think that, like, what we started off with the money and the fame, how that can get to your head, build a huge ego, and have yourself taken away, like take your concentration away from what you have to do to perform on the floor? You, as a former player, we would love to know that, brother.
Most definitely. I mean, like I said before, though, every individual is different how they handle it. But I know countless guys who got a little bit more money, started earning, and they changed. Money changes you. The lifestyle changes you. The NBA lifestyle will change anyone, for sure, no question. Some handle it better than others. You talked about, they're doing commercials, they're doing a lot of things. I applaud that for any player, that they can do extracurricular activities like that, sponsorships, things like that. They should. They have a very short time span where they can make a lot of money and hopefully take care of their family for life. I don't see the problem with that. The problem comes when a team like the Raptors is underperforming. Then everybody says, hey, you're doing too much. You're doing way too much. You're not producing on the court, but I see your face on billboards. I see everything. The players are doing that, whether they're 1-81 or they're 81-1. They're going to do it anyway. I don't know personally, but I don't think in the Raptors case that it's a case of guys doing too much, that they're doing extra. They're always going to do that. I think with the Raptors, they're underperforming, not so much because of that, but because of maybe coaching or chemistry issues or things like that. So it's kind of hard, but I think players definitely change once the lifestyle, they start getting into that, the freedom, the money, the women, everything that comes with it. Players change. It's just on that individual how they adjust to it.
I think the commercial thing's interesting because there was, for about 4 years with the Raptors, there was about 4 years where there was GoDaddy curse, right? And it was like every time one guy would get on the GoDaddy commercial, he'd have his worst ever year. And I think it's like some of it's like maybe in your mind, but some of it's also like they're going to pick the guy who had his career year last year, so he's going to have a bad year the next year. I think like Fred and OG in the shaving commercial, I'm not worried about that. I think the one that sort of comes to mind is this Sky's doing these Subway commercials, and then he came out and he had a really rough start to the year. And a lot of people were kind of wondering, maybe getting on TV, like maybe getting that commercial was sort of this I've arrived moment, right? Where it's like you get the contract and you're like, oh, I've made it. And you never want to be in that mindset, right? If you're in a competitive environment, you never want to be in that mindset of I've made it, I'm done, I'm at my finish point. You never want to think that. You always want to be hungry for the next thing. So I think that's maybe what people were kind of getting at with criticizing him for the commercials. I agree with you. I think guys are always going to do commercials. I'm not going to sit there and complain that someone's in an ad. It's more like you have to make sure that you keep that competitive edge. I don't know if this is a question so much. It's like I think you have to have that competitive edge regardless of how much you've accomplished going into a season or Yes.
Let me take your point, Skip, and ask Sean this question. Sean, now you've coached multiple young men through this game, right? And kudos to you for that, because a lot of people won't, and they don't take the time out of their life. Would you, like Skip was just saying, you got to be hungry, right? But what do you teach when you have to draw the line between hungry and humility to teach the kids? Can you give a PSA for the young players out there? Because I know there's some young players, especially from my old high school, that watch this.
Well, I think with every level that you go up, so if you're in high school, you're the man in high school, right? You go to college, you're probably one of the best players at your college. Then you go to the pros. With every level, things change a little bit, and you have the threat of losing that hunger. And by the time you get to the pros, there's a lot more money involved, and that's where you see the difference between players that are superstars and can maintain it, or guys that have one good year, bad year, solid year, and the ups and downs, because they're not able to handle that and be humble and do what they have to do. Like we were talking about the commercials. Those commercials are filmed months and months in advance, right, before they actually come out. So it's not a question of that. It's more of, did you get in the gym after you did the commercial? You know, what did you do during the summer? And so for a high school player that's about to go to college, they also have different things, and they also they're coming into a situation where they're the big men on campus. When I was at Arizona, there was nothing at the University of Arizona except the Wildcats. So I went nuts when I first got there. It wasn't about money for me. It was more party, lifestyle. Everybody knows you. Girls are on you. And with every level, it gets more and more intense. So I think every player has to experience that and learn how to deal with that, and to remain humble. And not everybody can do that. And not everybody is able to do that. Like I said before, it's all on the individual, and everybody goes through it.
Pointers and advice that maybe some of the young players can utilize, because you've been
successful. It helps if your family grounds you. It really helps if you got people around you that humble you and say, yo, you are not, that's not it, bro. That ain't it. I had my brother, I had my family, but especially my older brother. I had a terrible year at University of Arizona, and I ended up leaving after my freshman year. And my brother he went in on me like, yo, this is your fault. Like, this is all on you. And that was the moment where it switched for me. And I think the most important thing is family, but some of these people don't have that. They don't have that support system. They have hangers-ons, you know, that just that are around for the fame, around for partying, things like that. So I think the circle you keep is the most important thing. And it doesn't even have to be your family, but it has to be your day ones that also keep you out of situations, or tell you, you know, I'm a person, my best friend, he'll tell me I'm wrong in a minute. My brother, he'll tell me I'm wrong in a minute.
Yep.
So
your mother,
you have to have those. You have to have those people around you that tell you, yo, your shit stinks. Like, stop.
What's that saying? True friends stab you in the front.
Yeah. I mean, for real. Like, and that's now what I want. When I was younger, I didn't want that. But as you grow, you realize how important that is to keep you humble.
Yeah.
Wow. No. Wise words spoken. Skip, do you have another question for Sean before we get out of here?
Nothing's jumping to mind.
Sean's a busy man.
Yeah, I think we covered most of it. Yeah, no, I'm good. Maybe we could wrap it there, unless you got something.
Sean, I got one last question for you, my man.
You got it.
Just one last question before we get out of here, since time's running short and you're a busy man. And by the way, thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask, with you and I have both been studying, watching, playing, coaching within the last 5 decades, right? At least, minimum. Have you noticed a change within, this might have touched on Skip's question earlier, but have you noticed a significant change on the way the players are now as opposed to when we were growing up? Because our different mindsets, right? As opposed to them, like I'll share you a quick story. What was it, Skip? 2 years ago in the summer, I dove for a loose ball while we were playing ball on the blacktop, and I busted my head open.
Yeah,
and I lost a lot of blood. But I got up, and me and Bob were playing. Shout out to Bobby. Me and Bob were playing 2-on-2, and I scored the next point, and I gave him the winning assist to finish the game, and then I was done. But I still had to get in the game. Skip was ready to call the ambulance off. But for the, like you mentioned earlier,
I don't know about ambulance. I told you to go home and put a Band-Aid on. A bandage.
I already lost the back of my head, but whatever. I still got the ball, and I still won.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the thick skin, do you think there are outside factors that play into these players, such as like possibly the social media, possibly this hip hop culture, what we call now, maybe the popular culture, maybe the cancel culture. Are there any outside factors that can diminish these players and make them thin-skinned
Yes,
right now?
I am very much a hater of the AAU. I'm going to go back to AAU system. When I was coming up, AAU was just getting started. I started playing AAU ball when it was really about the players, not about coaches, not about show, not about anything. It was about getting players sponsorships, right? So I'm going to say that the AAU system, how it is right now, is really bad for players. Really bad. It's incredibly narcissistic, and it leads to players being soft. And I think players are softer. They're not as intelligent. They're more athletic than ever by far. The things that these players are doing on the court is really incredible. But they're not smart, and they're not thick-skinned. They're not as tough. That's my criticism. And I think it starts with the AAU culture of coddling the better players. And I think that's one of the main reasons. But there's also the social media aspect. I think social media is great for the game, but it's like a gift and a curse, because you have to deal with a lot of things. Coaches these days have to deal with a lot of things that they didn't have to deal with before. You walk into a gym right now, you see people your players doing TikTok dances on the middle of the floor. Come on, like really, like, come on. So, but these things are a development of society. It's not the players' faults. And it will get more and more. You just, as a coach, you just have to learn how to handle it. But I think for the players, it's made them softer. It's made them softer. No question. And I'm a hater of AAU, so.
Yeah.
Hey, you went through it, so you know better than us.
Yeah, but when I went through it, it was different. It was much different. I'm an old head now, and I know old heads tend to bash the newer stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I didn't want to say it, but
I'm very much aware of that fact, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a natural progression, and the guys that are young these days, when they get older, they'll be saying the same thing like me. There'll be something else that is new. But in general, I think you can definitely see a trend that the players are softer nowadays due to the fact of how they've been coddled since they're literally 13, 12 years old.
Right.
Sean, thank you very much. We are short on time. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Anytime.
Man, anytime you're welcome in our home. Skip, do you have any final words before I feed you a last meal? Just anything.
I was just gonna say the last thing that he said. I think every old head is always gonna have that criticism of the younger generation. I think even the hip hop thing, like, you can criticize them for hip hop culture now, like go back 20 years, like the exact same thing.
Same.
So I don't think any of these things are radically different. There might be some slow transition, like the game evolves, players evolve, the systems evolve, but I think these are just cycles. We'll be back here in 20 years saying the same things about the next generation. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Yeah. I'll finish off here, guys. I will just say, as an old head, go watch that last episode from Wu-Tang American Saga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That shows you how vulture culture can affect some of the younger people and can affect people. And so, Sean, would you like to let the people know where they can find you?
You can find the book on Amazon, same name, different game. And I am very heavy on Instagram, SeanJMcCall.com, or Sean J. McCall is my handle on Instagram. And there, if you hit me up, I'll hit you back. I answer every DM myself. It's not an automated thing. If you hit me up, you need some information, you need some help, I'll be glad to help you out.
You can find me all the usual spots, Dougie J's on Twitter, SimonBroder.com, wherever else.
You guys know where to find me, at King Hussein. Go ahead, blow up my IG. You guys know where to find us, more importantly, to the point, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, Apple, Spotify. On behalf of myself, Simon, and the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Sean McCaw. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
Peace.
Peace.